what a comedy club GM wishes comedians knew, when to move to the coast, how to approach the business side of comedy, and more. We do all this tap dancing for things that we think are gonna be the next evolutionary step in our career, and they take us nowhere.
If I know why I'm in comedy and like why I'm doing comedy, it makes it easier for me to drive all the way to Toronto for a minute 30 bucket show.
They get in it because they see it's a route to something.
To something else.
Fame, stardom, celebrity, attention, whatever, money. For some reason, comics are like the art, the art, the art. I'm all about the art, but you need to be able to support yourself to do this art. These guys.
Yeah.
They had stability. And what I mean by that is they had family structure at home. A lot. Dude, Chappelle was married when he was like 19.
Maybe corporate America with human beings like their products and investments. Maybe a motherfucker brings into a room and says, this $50 million, this pile of money, it's all for you.
Let's move on to another segment that we love. And sometimes you love it and sometimes you hate it, ladies and gentlemen. If we talk shit about the people you love, they are just our opinions. They don't mean jack shit outside of these four walls. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for In These Comedy Skreets. Dante and myself get into some topics, some trending whatever posts, whatever. Mainly we just go to Reddit. I like to pretend like, and we go to Twitter and other places.
Well, today,
Jesus Christ.
Today we get to go to Substack.
By way of Reddit though, let's not front.
Hey, it's still Substack, no.
In these Comedy Skreets, ladies and gentlemen, Dante and myself find the latest topics, trends, whatever topics of interest, conversation pieces in the world of comedy, and we give our 2 cents, and and you feel however you feel. You go ahead and feel, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, none of this means shit. I really turned into Sanford and Son right there. So we're gonna start here with a really interesting the header, I guess. It got my damn, bro, this sentence structure is garbage. I saw a headline that got my interest on Reddit, and I thought we would discuss it here on the podcast. It's on r/standup, posted by Berlin Skin. That's funny for some reason. What a comedy club general manager wishes comedians knew. This is from an article. We will go into the article a little bit, but he decided to highlight this for his post on Reddit. What a comedy club GM wishes comedians knew, when to move to the coast, how to approach the business side of comedy, and more. All right. And this is the excerpt from the I'm gassy. From the article. I'm gassy. That's a terrible soundbite. One more time. I'm gassy. This episode sucks. At least we admit when we shit. I don't know why that was so funny. For some reason, comics are like, and this is an excerpt from the article, by the way. So this is, I believe, the general manager talking. For some reason, comics are like the art, the art, the art. I'm all about the art, but you need to be able to support yourself to do this art. You don't want to be making shit on Etsy when you're 55. You want to fund your actual career using your career. The business side is everything. Get great at your craft, but understand there are so many lanes where you can make money. I think a lot of it is just look at what people do that you like. Find whoever it is you like as a comic and study everything that they did. If you're a fan of Big J. Okerson, figure out what he did. He has 4 podcasts and a radio show. That's how he makes a lot of his money. Find somebody that you like and study their business side of it. Look at everybody. Read every book you can on comedy, the biographies, learn the pitfalls, read agents' books. You're getting into entertainment. You're getting into the industry. So learn it. You're going to be better off. You have to learn, and I think a lot of people just skip that side. Fantastic. I feel like he's talking directly to me when he says some people are just about the art, the art, the art.
Yeah, no, not. That's so funny. It says the art, the art, the art, and making stuff on Etsy when you're 55. Like those two are like directly at you, bro.
Yeah, I don't want to be doing that. But you do hear me talking about trying to figure out the blend. You know what I mean?
100%.
And this is what I was saying earlier. I got in it being like, I'm with the game and I just want to go the natural route, like what he's talking. Well, I don't think he's also against what I'm doing. So I was more inclined to do all that stuff. And then, you know, just the tap dancing of it all made me feel a certain way about myself. And then I'm in it like 10 years and I start to look around and I'm like, okay, some of my friends are getting but like they're not the same people. They don't even like necessarily, not that they're better or worse, but they're not the same. And like the ideas that we would talk about or whatever is like, there's a lot of deviation, which again, I'm not that person. So who am I to make life decisions for them? But I felt the pull.
Mm-hmm.
I felt myself. There's one specific instance that really stood out to me. And it's not about naming or anything, but like it was a comedian that's kind of in my same class. And like, you know, we're coming up together, whatever. And he was kind of floundering, went away, came back, like went for like on a family trip or whatever, you know what I mean? Came back and like really connected with his roots and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And once he started doing the comedy of that, got the festival.
Okay.
Like he was just like telling like the jokes he wanted to tell, came back, and it's not that he wasn't like, he was telling jokes that he wanted to tell, but now that they were all geared towards this is me and my culture and my people, and I went to my homeland, and then it's like he got that like immigrant spot on the festival the next year. Okay. And you know, they only got so many, they got 80 white spots, but they only got like so many ethnic spots. And you got to fill like the circle has to go in the circle hole and da 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 da. I was like, and then starting to get, and then I just remember like, okay, got that cred. And I saw this happen to so many people. You get that cred and then you just come back and then we're sitting in the same room, like wondering like what's happening for our careers and stuff. It's like we do all this tap dancing for things that we think are going to be the next evolutionary step in our career and they take us nowhere. And it's like, but we've like given up so much of ourselves, our time, our effort in chasing that thing where it's like, I'm still very grateful, even though, you know, I kind of put the kibosh foolishly in some places, but I don't believe in coincidences. I'm telling you, bro, like when he's talking about study the game, before I even got in, this was what I was doing. And even reading that, I think this is kind of like me hearing Craig facts. The part that sticks out to me isn't like some comics are like the art, because I know myself. And even though, yes, I'm very much about being an artist about comedy, like have respect and love for the craft.
Mm-hmm.
I still know it's the game.
Yeah.
We say it week to week, like our opinion is just our opinion. I have to function in this game. And what I haven't done, as much of that studying I did when I got in, I haven't really gone back and done like the production side of that studying. Like reading producers' books and stuff, because there's a lot of those. Yeah, I've been more in the metaphysical bag on books. Is like that actually gives me a little bit of a new itch I have to scratch now. Like, let me go actually study that side of the game, because I've always paid attention to like every aspect of it. Truly, like some of these weird things that we've talked about that when I got in, I'm like, I paid more attention to transitions. I was more interested in seeing how to get from joke to joke seamlessly before I was interested in like, let me make sure all the jokes are bangers, which is kind of a wild approach to take to comedy. But like, I always knew that like the comedy is the comedy.
Yeah.
There was parts of it that I was just more interested in figuring out first and I thought would help, which did honestly to me.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just so nuanced, bro. It's so layered.
Well, do you want to check the comments or do you want to check the
this one
the
actually
Substack?
This one hits home to me because I'm very much in the middle of this. Like I'm in this part. I promise you, bro, I told myself when I started, I know I'm not gonna pop until I'm 40.
Okay.
Like I'm very naively realistic. Like I'm naive enough to like I don't even know how to fully describe that. But I think the naivete comes from just my slow learning curve. You know, like I was explaining earlier, it takes me a while to really grasp things. So already I think before I knew that I was being as honest with myself as I was naively being honest with myself by telling myself I'm not going to pop until I'm 40.
Okay.
But what I was doing, because the study phase of it all, when I was in my car accident and literally like where these Curb DVDs came from, all like the Chappelle show I already had, but like when I was studying everything, when he says watch and read stuff of people you don't like, I did that. I watched everything. Comedians I didn't like, comedians I didn't know, comedians that people recommended, and people I loved, obviously, all of it. And what I realized, some of the things that really stuck out to me the most, and this leads into a whole other rabbit hole, bro, of where I lost a lot of my time and energy and effort, was the sex, drugs, and rock and roll aspect of the game. What I noticed was the most successful people, the people that I really looked up to and that had like meant something, not just to me, but to a lot of people and to the game of comedy, these guys, they had stability.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is they had family structure at home. A lot, dude, Chappelle was married when he was like 19. Like he had a wife.
Yeah.
You know? And you hear a lot of the guys when they're just running out there. And then I experienced that. So it's like, this is where I say I'm a slow learner. I knew this going in, but instead of like being like, I know this, avoid it, I just went head first and I experienced it.
Yeah.
And I lost.
Let me see if I'm wrong.
I lost years. When I moved to Toronto, bro, the move was go to Toronto. Then from there, I proved to myself, okay, I can move down the road and make a go at this, progress, make more inroads, and then go to New York or LA or whatever. Austin wasn't even a thing at the time.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened. So like there was so many, but the time I spent in Toronto, I could have, and realistically I should have, moved so much further along in the game. But where I'm kind of grateful about having not done that is I was still very much, I need to get my Just for Laughs credit, and then I need to go this route and this route. And I would have probably been stuck making memes and friggin' doing all that instead of actually sitting down with myself and just seeing all the noise that's happening around me and seeing literally, like, I know it sounds pretentious or whatever to say I'm watching people like lose themselves, and I can't really fully say that, but I know the conversations and the sentiments of the people that were in my direct class coming into the game when we came together. We're like, we want this and this and this. And then just seeing so many people stray from that because the easier route is like make a sketch or make a thing that you get, and you see it. So I've been battling that because I truly am an art guy. Art. I love you, bro. You're a piece of garbage, but like I can only hang out with pieces of garbage. But I am also, because I've always been I've been a business guy. I was just so tapped into and focused into like the traditional route of things where I didn't even realize and stop and realize like, yo, the route of it is whatever you make. Like you build your own skill and your audience. And yeah, so like that is a way, but the way that we're being, you know, the building your audience thing now is where I've also been having, but I'm working on that.
Yes.
You know, I'm not just trying to be out here being like this, but bro, if you have no respect for or love, like deep love for the craft of comedy, then I don't to you at all. It doesn't, but that doesn't matter anyways. What does that matter?
Yep.
Like, let's read a little bit of the article because that was just the Reddit post. But this is the actual article on a Substack, which is, you know, modern day blog BS. But Chicago this weekend, a 2021 interview with Brian Morton, the general manager of Zany's Old Town in Chicago, in the Comedy Gazelle is filled with gems, some excerpts below. What kind of advice would you give to a newer comic that can't get on stage at a club? How do you develop material as someone who's just starting out? And this is his answer. I think you just have to do it. It all depends on how bad you really want it. What do you want out of comedy is a huge question. A lot of people don't really ask themselves. Yes, bro. I've actually been saying this to some of the newer people recently. I've been making an effort. Like, honestly, bro, like the things that I didn't get that I wish.
Yeah.
like people were just more human and would reach out and let you know, it's like, yo, I see this in you.
Yeah.
Make sure you protect that going forward. I literally said to someone the other day, like, bro, not just me, the entire community clearly sees something like very special about you.
Yeah. Do you want to say who it is or no?
I don't, because I did like,
okay.
I'm not that type of person. I don't know.
Fair.
Like I'm more about the example, less about like putting a, I don't want to expose.
No, that's fair.
But like, I literally said, I'm like, make sure you keep your head on a swivel, because other people who recognize this about you will give you opportunities to keep you around. Like, ask yourself, what do you want out of this game?
Yeah.
And know that you are absolutely getting opportunities because you deserve them, but make sure, watch how you get what opportunities, who's like, just certain stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, that to me is such an important question that I didn't ask myself. I knew I wanted to travel, and I knew I wanted to see the world and do comedy and be like the best that I could be, but that's so broad. It took me years until I finally was like, oh, what do I really want out of this? That's when I finally I started to breathe for the first time. That's when I started to notice, I'm like, yo, I'm chasing this credit when I am the credit. Like, yes, they could put me in front of certain opportunities or whatever, but like, do I even want to go down that route? I've always been the anti-establishment guy. How come I never stopped to think about that for a real second? And I'm trying to chase the establishment. F the establishment, bro. Like, so I'll continue with this article. Do you have anything you want to say before? Because I've just been talking.
I think you want to. What do you actually want out of this? Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair, and I think that's with most things.
Yeah,
you
so very in just general.
In general, and maybe I'm fortunate enough because I read a book. I read a book called "Start with Why." Right?
Oh, that's
right, and that's
exactly this.
Yeah, so the book is basically like, oh, people want to say, oh, I want to do this so I can get rich.
Yeah.
But why do you even want to be rich?
Bruh, that is literally the underlying, is the underlying thing of me being like, are you a comedian or are you like...
Yeah.
Because most people don't get in it because they love comedy.
Yeah.
They get in it because they see it's a route to something.
To something else.
To something else.
Yes.
Fame, stardom, celebrity, attention, whatever, money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bruh, but again, that's my own little thing. And I've had to grow with that.
Yeah.
And before I used to actually be attached to that. I'm not even attached to that anymore. It's just like, again, we're on Black Zeus the show, just talking shit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just love this.
Yeah.
I love it. So when I'm around people that I know don't actually respect it like that, it makes me feel a type of way.
I get it.
Yeah.
But like from my perspective, I was, like I said, I think I was fortunate. But I mean, I read a book. You know what I mean? Like,
that's perspective, though.
I know, but I read the book, and it helped me to go into it with this mindset. So I'm not figuring it out later. That's on the book. Literally says start with why and then go from there. Because you know,
I like that you even said that, because you probably will feel less like you've wasted time.
I'm not. Yeah, because I know what I'm doing. Yeah, and I know why I'm doing it. So when I know why I'm doing something, it makes it easier for me to do the thing. You know, if I'm like, if I know why I'm in comedy and like why I'm doing comedy, it makes it easier for me to drive all the way to Toronto for a minute 30 bucket show.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Whereas like someone that doesn't know, they're like, is it even worth it? But it's like, when you know why, it's like, yeah, it is worth it. So go do it. Yeah.
But also those things do change. Like as you're in it more.
As you're in it, but I'm not at that stage yet.
Exactly.
So like in my stage now,
that's one of the most important things. Yeah.
You know, you get good feedback for me, and you get stage time. You get in front of an audience. So to me, it's worth it because I know why it's worth it.
That's why I think the studying part is so important. I love that he mentioned that. I literally studied, like, One of the things I realized going into it, so I told myself literally, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pop until I'm 40, most likely.
Okay.
And I knew this was going to be a money pit. I feel like a lot of people really don't grasp just how much of a money pit comedy is, especially if you want to take it all the way.
It's not a money pit, young Padawan. It's a wishing well.
That's a great way to look at it. That's a great way to look at it. I'm going to read one more of these. Not the next one, though, because that's specific to Chicago. Let me...
Ooh, what are some qualities you look when you're working with someone?
Yeah. I like people who are easy to work with, being able to go with the flow, no matter what that means. It's a live show, so sometimes everything won't go right. I think just being nice, that's a huge part of it. Sometimes comics aren't approachable people. I totally get that, but be nice. Also, don't make decisions without running shit by the club. Sometimes I've had comics that are just that are the headliner. They'll just decide I'm putting this person on the show and not say anything. Great point. I'm sure once you're actually at a certain level that is irrelevant, but I'm sure the person still feels the type of way.
Ooh, here's a good one.
I know you're big on the business side of comedy. Why do you think that's so important for comics to learn? I think a lot of people ignore the business side of it when they get, and then they get in the ass for 12 years as they're like, why am I getting in the ass? It's like, dude, you're not paying attention to the business side of it. And the business side doesn't just mean Comedy Central or HBO. It could be your own personal business. Go look up how much Tim Dillon makes on Patreon. He doesn't have a TV show. Everything that he's gotten hasn't come his way. Yeah, he's on Rogan now, but he built himself up to get there. $93,000 a month just from his Patreon. There's things like this that are out there that you can build yourself. Study the business, because at the end of the day, you don't want a fucking job. Your goal is to live off comedy, whatever that means. There's so many different lanes in comedy that people get caught up in the idea of, okay, I'm a host, I'm a feature, I'm a headliner, then I'm a national headliner. That's their idea, but it doesn't work like that. There's all these different ways to make money. For some reason, comics are like the art. I'm all about the art, but you need to be able to support yourself to do this art. You don't want to be making shit on Etsy when you're 55. You want to fund your actual career using your career. The business side of everything. The business side is everything. Get great at your craft, but understand there are so many lanes where you can make money. That is an amazing, amazing way to just put that. We're gonna wrap that up.
Yeah.
But I even, you know what's super hard though?
What?
Getting a team. You know how hard it, like, you know, look how long it took for you to come around. I've had these trials with multiple people.
Yeah.
And it's just the dynamic isn't right, the timing isn't right. The same level of commitment isn't there. It takes so much. You know how many times I've tried to group my niggas together and be like, look at Kevin Hart, bro. He made it with his homies. Kevin is the lead, but he put every one of his friends on.
Yeah.
I've tried that with my friends, but everybody's wrapped up in their own life. And then again, it's not to the negative. Like, this isn't a negative statement. You're wrapped up in your own life and all these things, and they're not in the entertainment side of things. So they look at this as even more as a like pipe dream or just like far-fetched idea. It's like, now having seen people look at me like I'm Chappelle, like in my immediate community and stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy because I've just been consistent with it for 14 years. And now they've seen, like, especially when the Russell thing happened. I remember the first, I went to the farmer's market when we got back from Texas.
Yeah.
And I ran into somebody. She's like, oh my God, you even look like a celebrity now. I'm like, what? I'm like, how do people perceive the world, bro? Because but this is it. You know what I mean? And
you know what you should do? You should just only post those clips that just really.
I don't care.
No, it's
I'm
a
not,
joke. It's a joke.
But like, bro. The art.
It burns.
The art. I don't like, but there are. For every one of me, there's 10 people that jump to that. I have so many names that would be like, yes, I am. And straighten up their back a little more, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm having supreme confidence in not just your skill, but who you are actually rids you of ego. Like, if knowing where you stand, what you stand for, what you want out of things, like, really deads all that stuff.
Yep.
And it allows you to look at people a lot more cleanly. You know what I mean? Like without rose tinted glasses on. Like I actually see you.
Yeah.
I see you maybe deeper than you see yourself. Or when you do see yourself like this, it might actually make you tearful, fearful, or whatever. Like, because I've dealt with my traumas. I've looked in my shadows. Like I've just dove in. Once you do that, man, like, bruh, come on, bruh.
Come on, bruh. Do the shadow work, bruh.
Bingo. Do the shadow work. Do you have any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, like I completely agree. Like in the beginning.
This is a 1997 movie trailer.
In the beginning, there was the cube. No, but I know there's not a lot of money in the beginning, and like you said, you're throwing in a lot of money. You're investing in yourself.
Yeah,
in the beginning, a lot more than people think. Like, oh, it's not worth that much investment. So then they stop because it's not worth it to them.
Yeah.
But I know how worth it is to me, which is why I'm okay throwing money in the well all the time. You know what I mean? So once again, I think figuring out the why is super important.
It might be the most important first step.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Aside from starting.
and you, when we do these comedy interviews and stuff, every once in a while you hear like Russell literally said this. First thing I would ask, why?
Yeah, Jared said the same thing.
Jared said the same thing. I was going to say, yeah. Like
on the same wavelength.
It's I want to just wrap this up with like just put a ribbon on it with this Chappelle clip. Cause like one of the things that really formed my thing, like, bruh, when I'm saying I studied, it wasn't that I was just studying, you know, the comedy side. There was aspects of the business side I was studying, especially once I got in. Every time I was at a show, I literally for years would just watch the producer, how they engage with the audience, how they would like, and when I went back to shows, how they would build rapport and have returning customers. Like,
I would like to highlight because I've been around a few shows, and the way I saw G running his show was fire.
Yes, he's with the people. He
pays like right away.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And like so other people do that, but like he makes it a point. Like if I'm supposed to be running a good show, I should be able to pay you right now.
Correct.
You know, out of respect for your craft and your time.
Correct.
People are like, oh, I'll pay you in 2 weeks when the money comes in. What?
These are the people that you go out of your way to help.
Yeah,
and to just always show out for. Like salute G Gathiga. Go check out all his shows. But yeah, when I talk about like Patrice, all his Opie and Anthony tapes, I learned more from that about not just like the industry of comedy and show business, but about how to think about myself. Dude, this dude is a deep thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like that is what I really, because he would talk about just going through the motions and then apply that directly to the situations in show business, in comedy. So then once I actually got in, it's almost like I was going back. I was going back. It was like game tape. I'm like experiencing things that I'm like, I remember Patrice said something like this happened to him. And it was like, this is one of those things. This clip of Chappelle, if you haven't watched it, while it's still on YouTube, it's a really, really amazing, like a 47-minute. It was like, they did these things called Iconoclast, where they would put two icons together for an episode of a show. It was like on Biography TV back in the day. So they had Maya Angelou and Dave Chappelle do an episode together. So they had Maya and Dave just be in a room and just have a conversation, talk about life, art, all that stuff. And it was interwoven between, okay, sometimes it would show Maya's life, sometimes it would show what Dave was up to. And this was the first or one of the first things I remember seeing from Dave after him leaving Chappelle's show and all that controversy. This is the first time I had ever seen a clip of a joke that he was telling about that exact direct experience. And this has always stuck out to me. How he describes, obviously this is a joke, but how he describes what that process was like for him. And to give you a bit of the backstory, obviously, if you don't know, Dave Chappelle's show was the most popular sketch show in history. They offered him $50 million to come back for season 3, but he was saying the contract came with a lot more, pretty much his soul, without saying that. And then he left to Africa, which became its own controversy. They tried to downplay it and make him a crackhead and all that in the news. And then he disappeared for 10 years to us. But he's a comic. There's stories of him literally taking speakers and stuff into the middle of the park and just doing live comedy shows for the people. And he'd be doing this for years underground. Slowly started to make his way back out.
Underground parks.
Yeah. And then this is one of the first things that I saw where I saw him actually making a joke. And it's obviously just so hysterical, but damn, bro, it really, to me, encapsulates going the showbiz route. That's why that GM from Zanies, he's giving great advice, but I also appreciate him for being on the corporate side of the game, but still telling people to really assess what they want out of it.
Yeah.
Because if you just say, I need the accolades and I want the credits and da-da-da, you might end up like this. So we'll hit play on this and then we'll wrap the episode up. And I just want to until after he says the joke.
Maybe corporate America fucks with human beings like their products and investments. Maybe a motherfucker brings into a room and says, this $50 million, this pile of money, it's all for you. And when you try to grab it, he just throws his dick right on top of it.
Bro. Pre-clone Chappelle right there. But that is a hilarious.
Yeah.
What a take. But man, if that ain't one of the realest and just so sharp.
Yeah.
Which is so Chappelle.
Crisp. Samurai sword.
Like samurai. And just as you go to reach for the money, they put the dick on it.
Boom.
But that's going to wrap it up for Indies Comedy Skreets.
Hey, it's Hen Dog.
Black Zeus the Podcast Season 6, featuring Black Zeus and Dante, aka Black Zeus on YouTube, Patreon,